that adamant.
Microphones. Mr. Milborn, we see you're out there on audio. Are you not able to get visual?
Apparently I'm not turning something on right. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but unfortunately, if we can't see you, then you cannot.
Right, I understand.
Okay. I believe you can listen and I can ask you for questions, but you won't be able to vote.
I understand that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Milburn. All right, we'll call to order. Board of Zoning Appeals for November 13th, 2024. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 28th meeting.
I move that we approve those.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor raise their hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Any special requests or continuances?
Yes, I believe there will be a request to continue the variances for the airport project.
Okay. That's the old business.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there
someone here to make that request?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Paul Taylor with Taylor Morrison. We're here tonight to request the continuance on the variance request that we have before the board. And the reason for this request is we realized at the last meeting there was probably a lack of information, some information that was probably could have helped the board understand why the variances are being requested. We're in the process of putting that information together and would like to be able to provide that to this board in advance of considering the variances. So it's unfortunate that we failed to do that with the first meeting, but we realized between then and now that we need to do that so that you all could see what those the certain way these houses fit and sit on the lots and so on, because I know a lot of these are special type product that have not been built in Greenwood, and we want you to see what those look like. So we're requesting this continuance in order to get that information to you in advance of the next meeting.
Would not that require reopening the hearing?
So that the public hearing has closed. It would need to be really reopened to have additional dialogue in excess of the time that was allocated.
We don't need, if the exhibits, our intent would be to make sure the exhibits, the information is clear enough for you to see. If it is, then there's no dialogue necessary. We're trying to make it so it's understandable to the point where there's no question on how these houses will fit on the lots and how they relate to each other and so on. Some of this is rear load product, which I don't believe there's much, if any, that's been built in Greenwood. Some of the homes are special design to how they relate to two of them side by side, and that's not been built in Greenwood before. So we realized that in the last meeting that that's hard to say in words, and so having those exhibits would provide more clarity on that. And so it's not necessarily a dialogue, it's just supplementing the information is what we would propose.
Can supplemental information be presented without opening testimony?
I'd say no.
If that's what is necessary, we're not opposed to it. But that's just the explanation for this.
And you did receive an email about one of the variances being
Yes.
reduced, so maybe an update information in that sense of if they're withdrawing variance requests. I feel like new information though would be, if that time for that is closed, if you had questions for him during your deliberation, you could ask questions, but I don't know if we can introduce new information at this time.
Without reopening public hearing.
That's fine, we weren't trying to complicate the situation, but we recognized from the last meeting that having additional information would have been better for the board. If that takes opening the public hearing back up, that's fine.
Can I add, I'm in a little weird situation because I need to recuse myself from this particular, but can I ask a procedural question around this? That's not necessarily specific to that. If they vote as is, and deny or whatever, would they be able to come back with the new evidence on a new submittal, or what would the process be from there? And I guess if they approve, if it would be approved, it wouldn't matter, but
I'll have that in one moment, so you can't reapply for the same exact variance within, I believe it's 1 year.
Is that statutory or is that our procedure where we could?
That's our procedure, that's not an Indiana code thing.
I guess we're not at, how do I want to say this? We tabled prior to voting, but that was also prior to asking any questions from the board. So now if we chose to continue today and to the vote and we asked questions, that would give them the opportunity to clarify anything that they think they might not have made clear before. Is that correct?
I believe if you ask the petitioner, yes, that's correct.
They need to answer your question. If they're answering your question, is to clarify a point that you want, that you're requesting, that they can answer that.
When they can do that.
If they're
I mean,
submitting additional, basically, you're reopening the record to offer, to allow them to submit evidence, that's different than. you
Right.
asking for.
Because what I'm hearing is it's not offering anything new, but more of being able to explain something if we're unclear.
Correct.
Is that not what I'm hearing?
That's
Okay.
the purpose of
Okay.
that.
But we haven't got to that point yet. I'm just wanting to make sure we're all on the same page. So now you do realize that we deferred last time because it went to the planning commission
Correct.
to have their input, and they have to send their recommendations to the council. And the
Correct.
council has not made a decision.
That's correct.
So that kind of puts us in a little bit of a unique situation as to whether we want to make a decision before the council has made their decision.
Correct, yes.
That may be another reason for a continuance, because the council would be, the date on the council, is that next Monday?
Yes, I believe it was next Monday.
Yes,
And so the next board meeting, this meeting, would be after that, so you
Correct.
know the result of the council.
So could we table it until after the council decision to decide whether or not we want to reopen it to hear the new stuff?
well, I'm not hearing any, he's not saying he's gonna present new stuff, but be able to clarify any questions we might have.
Because we have.
We haven't done that part yet.
Okay.
Correct.
You with me? We haven't
Yeah. I see.
had
So
our
if-
opportunity to make any questions. of the
Yeah, but don't
petitioner.
present any new information.
It just may be
between now
clarified.
And we can just ask questions then.
You can ask questions and I can try to clarify it at that time.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
I want to make sure we're all on the same page and all understanding what we're saying.
And I will add to the redocketing of a denied case. I have it up before me. It is 12 months from the date of the decision, except upon motion to permit redocketing adopted by a unanimous vote of all members present at a regular or special meeting of the board.
So if that happens, then we should do that.
It could come back before the 12 months if it's unanimously decided to rehear the same variance request.
Okay, I don't think we're at that point right now. I think we're at the stage we need to decide, are we ready to proceed or do we need to defer?
I say we motion to defer.
Yeah, I think we need to at least wait to hear what the council, because the council could also add commitments on this that
That we don't. know
moves
about.
the variances all the way around. I mean, I'm not saying they will, and I'm not saying they won't,
We don't know what they're.
but it is within their prerogative to do that. And that could, if we try and act tonight and they come in with something else, then we could, with the developer, I guess, would be caught between rock and a hard place. So
So I say we motion to continue this.
I second it to 20.
The 27th or 25th would be.
Is the 25th available for us?
The 25th will actually work out better. I had a
Okay.
cancellation, so there was a slot open, so that works just fine.
We have a motion to continue to November 25th. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah.
You would be able to, somebody would be able to be here. All those in favor, raise your hand. Oh, motion by Mr. Mull, second by Mr. King, and all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Motion has carried. You are continued until November the 25th. See you back.
Thank you. Any other special request for continuances? No findings of fact. We now have no old business. Any old business from the floor? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. First up, excuse me, is BZA 2024-042. This is a development standards variance for 723-A North US 31. The petitioner is Crystal Whitehead on behalf of Haverty's Furniture, requesting relief from two sections of the Unified Development Ordinance. Number one, to increase the maximum size on a front facade of a wall sign from 200 to 320 square feet. And number two, to increase the maximum size on a front facade of a wall sign from 50 to 105 square feet. Is everything in order? Oh, notices in receipt.
Everything is in order and on file.
Ordinances and comprehensive plan.
Anyone wishing to present for or against this, please stand and be sworn in by our secretary.
Do you swear to diligence, perjury, testimony to the best of your knowledge? Thank you.
All right, names and addresses, and I believe it's the sheet up there for filling out your names and addresses for the record.
My name is Crystal Whitehead. Address is 1801 DeLoss Street, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46201.
Excellent.
Charles Whitehead. 1801 DeLoss, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46201.
Thank you. All right, once you are ready, tell us why you're here.
Haverty's Furniture is opening up in the old Bed Bath & Beyond building, and we're requesting, we got a permit to have the word Haverty's, but not everybody knows what Haverty's is. We want furniture added below that, which would increase the size beyond what is permitted. And then they also would like to have one on a sign that says Haverty's Furniture on the back of the building.
Okay. Do you have your answers to the detailed statement of reasons that you submitted?
Yeah.
Because we do need to actually talk through those and talk them into the record. I do believe you answered the same for both variances, is that correct?
Correct.
So with that, we'll read them one time and note that it does apply to both variance 1 and variance 2. So number 1, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because
it will be designed, constructed, and maintained in a way as to be solid structure. It will not have materials, equipment, nor conditions that would be harmful to people nor property.
And then number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
it will be designed, constructed, and maintained in a manner to be harmonious and consistent with other signage in the vicinity. It will also be smaller in size than the previous tenants, which is Bed Bath & Beyond's sign that was previously installed.
Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
Without proper identification, a business could be missed and or overlooked. Identification is critical to identify to potential customers and or visitors where the business is located. Signs are an essential component of a business's overall marketing. Exterior signs draw attention to a place of business and help differentiate it from others on the street.
And then number 4, the structure is not regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-10-3 for hazard air navigation. Anything else you would like to add before I ask staff for their comments?
No.
Okay, staff?
Staff was providing a neutral position on these variances. Essentially, they are smaller than what was there before with that Bath and Beyond, which did have a variance for those signs, but that does not carry over to the new tenant. But they still are over the minimum or the maximum size for a sign. Could be argued whether that they need that big of a sign. For the road, that's kind of why we're in between. But we are happy to see that they're making effort to bring it into compliance.
Okay. Any response or further comments to that? Were there conditions, staff?
Yeah, just the one.
So just the one that the final plan shall substantially conform to the site plan depicted in Exhibit C, building elevations in Exhibit D, and sign renderings depicted in Exhibit E. I assume you're fine with that one condition.
That just means the plans that I submitted.
Is what you
Yeah,
wanted to.
yeah, okay.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Mull?
Okay.
Mr. King? Ms. Peters?
Aye.
I have no questions either. This is pretty straightforward. I will take a motion to admit all the evidence in the record.
Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrators on all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mrs. Peters, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor raise their hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. I will take a motion on request number 1 to allow a wall sign over 200 square feet on a front wall.
I move that we approve this request with one condition in the staff report, which is the final plans shall substantially conform to the site plan depicted in Exhibit C, building elevations in Exhibit D, and sign renderings depicted in Exhibit E.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mull to approve with one condition. All those in favor raise their hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Take a motion on request number 2 to allow a wall sign over 50 square feet on a rear wall.
I move that we approve this with the same
Mr. King, second by Mr. Mull to approve with the same condition. All those in favor raise their hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion also carries 4-0. Take a motion to direct the Corporation's Council to draft written findings of fact.
Mr. Chairman, having considered statutory criteria, I move that we direct the Corporations Council Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in variance petition number BZA 2024-042. Said findings specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision and final action regarding the petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Mull, second by Mrs. Peters. All in favor raise their hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. If you are good to proceed, we will take final action on the 25th, but you can work with staff.
Yeah, and just a reminder, write your name and address down just so we have it right for the record.
I do have a question. So are we good to install, because Haverty's is trying to open on the 22nd?
So you'll just reach back out you were likely working with Alyssa. She'll actually be gone tomorrow. So reach out to Kevin and see if he can review your sign permit that you submitted. We still do need to issue the sign permit, have that paid for before the sign can go up.
Okay.
Thank you.
you.
Have a good night. Next up, BZA 2024-043, this is a special exception. Petitioner is Adam Niemeyer on behalf of Outrigger Industrial, requesting a special exception for property at 955 Graham Road to allow for outdoor storage to take place at a property zoned industrial large. Is everything in order for this?
Yep, all the notices are in order and in our file.
Submit agreed with ordinance and comprehensive plan.
Everyone wishing to present for or against this, please stand and be sworn in by our secretary.
Do you swear not to this perjury, the testimony is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, same thing. If you could fill that out with your name and address when you get a chance, and then tell us your name and address.
Adam Niemeyer. My address is 5767 Sandy Mount Drive, Dublin, Ohio 43016.
All right, Mr. Niemeyer, tell us why you're here.
So we built two industrial buildings on Graham Road, 955 and 1055 Graham Road. The 1055 building is fully leased to a tenant, and the second building, 955, is 278,000 square foot distribution warehouse. We're negotiating a lease with the tenant for 111,000 square feet. And they need to use part of our existing truck court for outdoor storage of some of their larger materials. So in order to have that outdoor storage component, we needed a variance, so that's why we're here.
Okay, and do you have your answers to the statement of reasons with you?
Yes.
So we'll read through those then. There are a few of them. So number one, appropriate screening and buffering of the site, including refuse and other service areas, is provided to ensure that the use will be compatible with neighboring properties and will present acceptable view from the public ways because
Landlord intends to put a screen fence around the perimeter of the truck court. The tenant will put any racking, if any, on the east side of their space, further from Graham Road, approximately 600 feet from Graham Road and 200 feet from the neighboring industrial building to the south. The west side of the truck court will be floor stacked and not visible from Graham Road.
Number two, ingress, egress, and on-site circulation to and within the site is safe and adequate because
Tenant will take the west side of the building. Any future tenants will be able to access their space via the center loop road, which is 30 feet wide, designed for circulation.
Number three, satisfactory parking and loading facilities are provided because
Landlord designed the building to meet all of Greenwood's parking and loading standards. Tenant will occupy, that says east side, but it should be the west side of the building, leaving plenty of parking and loading for future tenants.
Number four, adequate utility services and related facilities are available because
the number of employees and proposed operations are in line with the distribution, manufacturing use the building was designed for.
Number five, adequate yards and open space are provided because
Landlord designed the building to meet Greenwood's landscaping requirements.
Number six, the proposed use does not generate environmental impacts which may threaten public health and safety, including but not limited to air quality, odor, smoke, pollution, flooding, or loss of wetlands because
the proposed uses for distribution in the plan is to store materials on the existing truck court. It will not impact flooding, wetlands, or add any pollution, smoke, or odor to the environment.
Number seven, the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding uses and will not adversely affect adjacent properties because
it is a clean distribution use with a need to store materials outside. The surrounding properties are industrial users to the south, west, and north. To the east is agricultural, but given the tenant is on the west side of the building, it will not be in clear sight of that parcel. Additionally, the landlord is adding a screen fence to mitigate view from Graham Road.
Number eight, the design of the structures is in harmony with the surrounding area in both style and scale because
the proposed use fits with the surrounding industrial users on Graham Road.
And number nine, the proposal is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan because
the outdoor storage area is directly adjacent to the primary structure and already paved with cement. The perimeter of the existing truck court where the outdoor storage component will be is already lined with plantings that meet the Greenwood landscaping code. Additionally, the landlord is adding a screen fence around the outdoor area.
Okay, anything else you'd like to add before I get staff's comments?
Did you want to do your presentation? It is loaded on the computer.
Sure, yeah. Do I control that over here?
What?
Yeah, I just have a couple slides showing perfect location and photo. Yeah, so if you can see the screen, the blue outline is our building. And then the building on here directly to the north is the one we also built, which is fully leased. We finished these buildings in December 22, early 2023. So the leasing environment's been a little slower. We're trying to gain some traction on this southern building. The red outline indicates the part of the building that the proposed tenant is taking. This is just a zoomed in site plan showing the building. So you can see on the southwest portion of the building would be where the outdoor storage is. We're proposing an 8-foot fence along the western edge and then wrapping around a little bit on the southwestern corner just to try to screen the view from Graham Road. And I will add, we do have an existing berm along Graham Road, and then 6-foot fence around the remainder of the outdoor storage area. And just a couple more points. This is an existing tenant within Greenwood, so they have another location nearby with 250 employees. So this would be adding another 30 employees to their existing Greenwood footprint. And then I think we already talked about the screening and buffering. Any racking they have, we're proposing we'll put that on the east side of the truck court, so further from Graham Road, more in the middle of our building. Then I think it fits with the industrial use along Graham Road. And then here's just some photos of the building. On the picture on the top right, the tenant would be on the left side of that picture, sort of at the bottom of the screen. And here's a couple pictures of the proposed fencing that we would want to do. So an 8-foot tall or 6-foot tall fence with some screening. And the last slide, here's a couple of photos that we got from the tenant of what they would propose storing outside. So the majority is just stacked on the floor, as you'll see, or on the ground, with a little bit of racking. So any racking would be on the eastern portion of their space in the middle of our building further from Graham Road. And I think that is it.
Yeah, so staff does have a few concerns with the proposal. It is not meeting one of our requirements to be located in the rear yard. It is located in the side yard, actually closer to the front of the building. We also questioned the screening material, showing that there is chain link with slats, which would not be permitted for the screening of outdoor storage. Lastly, I did want to mention, this was not mentioned in our staff report, but we do have some concerns. Exhibit B noted that there was designated fire lanes that appeared, and there is not being parking in the fire lane. That's section 6-91. So just to make sure that if you are to approve that this is addressed, I think it is conflicting with some of our fire lane access, the fencing that they're looking to install, as well as the location and the parking of vehicles may interfere with that. So that was something that I wanted to bring up. I know it wasn't our staff report, so I'll let you also respond to that if you guys are willing. But that was a third concern that we had. So for those 3 reasons, we did provide an unfavorable recommendation.
Okay. Do you have, Mr. Meyer, you want to respond to fire lane?
Yeah, so can you expand on that fire lane concerns?
Sure. So the concern is, if you go back to your blue point, the one where it says the blue, one of the first ones.
Okay, this one? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay.
See in the parking lot, those hash marks lanes?
Yes, on the bottom out where it says outdoor storage zone.
Yeah, and so there's, the board sees that as well. Those are all 3 fire lanes. And the outdoor storage goes directly over a fire lane. And the Greenwood ordinance precludes any blocking,
Okay.
parking, stopping, or standing of any personal property or any other means of obstructing fire lanes on private and public property shall be prohibited at all times. And also, the ordinance 6-135 for new construction indicates that for commercial property, you can't block fire access in such a manner to obstruct free passage of fire lanes. So the concern is your fencing that obstructs that access to those fire lanes.
Okay. So are you talking about the hashed area, like sort of in the middle?
Yeah, see
Where that
where the parking slots are, parking spaces.
Yeah.
In those parking spaces is a hash mark. And if you look at your exhibit E, it identifies those more closely.
Okay. So could we update this plan to show that we won't store anything in that one specific slotted spot
Well,
on the fire lane?
I think I'm confused. Are you talking about the two lines that run all the way through the parking area? Or are you talking about the little vertical?
Right there.
It's the vertical lane going these are.
That vertical lane, okay.
Which one?
It's right here.
So it's the little
Okay.
one,
Just the one vertical, yeah.
And then the gate, the access point is going to be blocking access to emergency fire trucks going into that.
okay, we were trying to just understand the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we could update this plan to show that we will not store anything in that one fire lane spot. And then I think on our other building, I know we have a secure truck court similar to this. So is there a way to give the fire department some sort of access to our fence to enter in the event of a fire?
Yeah, I'm sure that there's a way that we could reconfigure the site in a way that the fire marshal would approve of it. I think just with the fence going through the area now, it's difficult for staff to conceptualize that and be supportive of something that would block that area.
And just to make sure I'm on the same page, you're talking about the one spot.
Yeah, the vertical hash area, and then the other concerns are just the location being in the side and not the rear, and then the fencing material.
Okay, yep. So yeah, I think we could make sure that we are not impacting that one vertical hash area. If we could update our plan to show storage on the west side of that, on the east side of that, and maybe we can even leave one or two spots around that just to give some buffer for access. And then on the fencing, I know on our building to the north, we use the cedar wood fence. So with something like that, be more palatable versus the chain link fence with slotted material.
Yeah, special exception calls for a solid opaque wall or fence, including solid gates, to conceal the material. In no case shall the height of the fence or wall be less than 6 feet. It must be in good condition. And then all areas of the outdoor storage shall be organized in such a way that it is accessible to firefighting equipment and emergency vehicles at all times. Then the last one talks about areas devoted to outdoor storage shall be located in a rear yard, so it's behind the principal building and not visible from any public street unless the outdoor storage is located on a corner lot.
Yeah, I mean, that one's obviously more challenging because we can't reconfigure our building, but I think with the fencing and the existing berm that's there, and the fact that we're surrounded by industrial uses, I think this is gonna be a clean use. It's not gonna be disruptive to the neighboring buildings or an eyesore to any of the neighboring buildings. So I think we can rework our fence and then rework the site plan to show that we're not impacting that fire lane. I think being on the rear of the building is is not possible, obviously, but I hope with some of those changes that we make and the fact, like I said, this is an existing Greenwood operation, and if they don't come to this building, I think there's plenty of options in Whiteland or Franklin or other parts of greater Indianapolis that they would consider, so I'm hoping we can find a way to make this happen and keep them happy here in Greenwood.
I understand the economic implications, just as staff, this is one of the additional use standards if permitted as a special exception.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to base our recommendation on in our staff report.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anything else to add before I close public hearing and ask board, open up to the board for questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can try to come up with a plan for a better fence that's more visibly appealing and meets the solid opaque wall that we just discussed, and just make sure the site plan's updated, that we're not impacting that fire lane, and hopefully we can find a way to make this deal happen and keep existing Greenwood customer happy. So
I will close the public hearing. I have one question before I open it up. Procedural, I guess, questions. So, since he has proposed doing a new site plan or fiction, we can either make that a condition that has to be approved by you or by whom. Or the other thing would be, do we need to consider continuing this so we can see an updated proposal?
I have the same question.
I suppose you could have it be conditionally approved that certain elements are met. The staff report is still unfavorable based on what's been provided and the location of the outdoor storage. But that's maybe more of a question for the board to deliberate, or a legal question on the process there. I think with a special exception, it is essentially supposed to be approved if it meets the requirements that were laid out to you. Staff feels like it maybe falls short of those. That's why we did not recommend it.
I guess, from my perspective, I think there are a few things here we could potentially modify to make it more palatable, but I don't know what we can do as a condition to guarantee that tonight, as opposed to.
Yeah, it seems vague to just say you're gonna approve it without knowing exactly what the alternatives are.
Which
I guess I don't know if it is your job as a Board of Zoning Appeals to make deals and compromises to work through something with someone. I would prefer to. I guess it's your board, but I don't know if that's. I think we're trying to find a way to approve something.
Well, all right, so my procedural question is more this. This is part of the staff report, this plan that's on the screen. Regardless of our decision, we adopt the staff report as part of our findings of fact. If we would say this is conditionally approved with a new site plan, we've just adopted the old site plan. How do we get that?
that's my question.
Into the record? I mean, that kind of catches us, I think, in a procedural.
I almost feel like we need to continue.
But if it's a new site plan, then it has to go through the process again.
If it's a new, just to clarify, just to assist you, if it's a new site plan, it's not part of the record. So if it's not, if you say you're gonna make this part of the record and then make a decision, whatever they provide is not part of the record.
Okay. I know that this, what we see on the screen, is in site plan.
This is what you're making.
That we could make the decision if we decide we wanted to move forward, conditional on removing the blockage, the obstruction for the fire department, and the fire department approving that path. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That could be a condition, could it not?
I assume that can be a condition, correct?
And then as far as like the fencing, he suggested an alternative, we could make that a condition as well, that it be similar to what he's recommending
Or something that is approved
within the UDO.
Yeah.
Does that sound acceptable?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not saying it wrong.
Okay, with that, then I think we probably can proceed with questions. So, Mr. Moll.
So I had a question for you, or just to clarify. So for the fire lane, this whole area across here has to be open, right, for the fire trucks to be able to get through? Is that correct?
Those are mostly loading docks.
Well, yeah, up, this section right here is a loading dock. I didn't know, like, this space here needs to stay clear at all times, correct? For the fire.
Yeah, you can't, be
Block that.
blocking drive aisles and access, for emergency services.
So would it make sense then, instead of putting your fence all the way up here, all the way up here, could you just fence up to right here and then just create that as a storage area?
That, we would like that because that would be cheaper for us to do, but the tenant wants to have the whole area secured, so they don't have to
I
worry
also don't
about.
wanna pay the insurance for a place to burn down. I'm just saying that if, for the fire department to get through, I would say, if you got rid of those two sections, that would make it much easier to. Especially if they're, I mean, I don't know, I guess I've not really seen the reason why you need to have it go all the way up to here, if you're just gonna have trucks coming in and out anyway, so. I guess that's what I'm looking at, it's just, and then I like the idea of the cedar wood. And then I would, if it was up to me, I would also propose you keep it as one height instead of having 8 in the front and 6 on the side. I'd just keep it all as one nice standard height. But I guess that's my only question was the fire truck lane.
Yeah, they can, I mean, there are gates that allow for fire trucks to access through them.
I think so.
How fast is that typically open? I guess I'm just thinking like fire safety, like, you know, minutes count, and so they have to get somebody to open
They
it
don't
up.
open any faster. It just, he may have a client that uses keypad.
And then what would happen if that said business was like, oh, we'll get to this later, and they just leave stuff in the middle of the lane, and then God forbid something happened, and then all of a sudden fire trucks are blocked. I don't know.
That'd be part of the condition that the fire lane cannot be obstructed.
You're having that, you're having that risk no matter
Yeah,
what. There's a risk of a car could be parked there, you know, for that matter, but.
because I feel like that little section here would be okay if it was opened up right there, but.
Right.
Fire department approved.
Because
I mean, that's what I'm
I think
looking at, a
the key, right?
condition of making an approval by the fire department a part of this.
Yeah, I just understand.
Are they wanting the
This is one of
fencing
the
all the way to
entire-
the building for
Security.
security?
Sorry, can you?
Are they wanting the fencing all the way to the building because of security?
Yeah, yeah, and that's
They don't
been
want people
pretty
to have free access
standard.
to
Stealing.
the product.
Yeah, for a lot of industrial tenants, they prefer to have their entire truck court, that area to the south of the building, secured is what they call it, just to prevent any theft, or a lot of times, if you go to an empty building without a fence, you'll see car tire marks from doing donuts in their truck and stuff, so they just try to secure it to protect their property and truck.
And I agree with you. I mean, I'm concerned about fire, but if we have a condition where the fire department has to approve it, then I feel.
Yeah.
If they're okay, then I'm okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mr. King?
No, mine was more procedural. I understand that, yeah, we can set a condition. for the Fire department, to get access, those gates exist, that it's either they get a generic code or they get a key that overrides it.
Okay.
It doesn't open any faster, but it gives them, if they're not there,
Yeah, that's what I was most concerned, just
push comes to shove, the 500,000 pound truck.
the gate by itself.
Tear down the defense. I think we've kind of addressed all the concerns that I had.
The side yard versus the rear yard, I mean, obviously they can't put it in the rear yard. I feel like it's out of the way. Especially with the screenage and the fencing and everything else, it doesn't feel like a side yard or a front yard to me, but I can understand that to the letter of the law, it's not a rear yard. I feel like it's laid out well if we deal with the blockage. I also agree that common size fence makes sense. I know their picture of the chain link, so I get the chain link because you don't want to view through. They had a screenage to go on top of the chain link that would make it opaque, which I assume is still not what was listed in LEC adoptions.
It's difficult to see in the photo. I do know chain link slatting is not allowed, even when it's prohibited. And
I will say going by exhibit F, that is not, so that's okay. Like, as long as you won't come right up to it.
it looks like it might be a fabric screen where you could potentially see through it.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I'm trying to think what would be long-term nicer if, with a cedar fence that wooden fences are a lot of maintenance in many ways versus a more metal fence. I mean,
Did he not say that this is provided by the owners of the building and that they already have that on another part of the property? That's something that's already existing.
the cedar, yeah. No, I get it, so, okay. I was just asking because I was trying to clarify the opaque
It's in a different spot.
request, so.
Yeah, from a maintenance perspective, I would agree with you. I think this is long-term better. We do have cedar fences requirement on the north side of our building. I'll go back to the aerial page. When we initially did construction, so you'll see up here the northern building. On the north side of that, we do have a wooden fence on top of the berm, we tried to hide our truck court from the existing neighbor to the north as best we could, but so we do have some wooden fence around.
What about the southern? Is there no fencing now on the south, this proposed area?
No, there's not. There's a berm that goes around the pond. Not the tenant to the south, it's industrial.
All right, any other questions? I will take a motion to admit all the evidence in the record.
Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. I'll take a motion on the request itself, which is to allow for outdoor storage to place at a property zone industrial large.
I move that we approve this request. I'm reading my condition out here, so.
Okay.
All right, my first condition is that one, all fire lanes cannot be obstructed and that the project must be approved by the Greenwood City Fire Marshal. Second condition is that the fencing is to be opaque and similar to the cedar fencing on the north side that the petitioner mentioned. And then third is that this is conditional on the new site plan being submitted that reflects the changes the petitioner testified to.
Say that one more time.
That a new site plan be submitted that reflects the petitioner's testimony on his changes.
Site plan submitted and approved.
Do you guys actually approve site plans, procedural?
So we do.
Like what happens if I submit a site plan?
Yeah, we do approve site plans, with this being impervious surface already, with just really a fence going up, it won't require any like land alteration permit, but it could, we would make sure that it meets our standards. Some things we have standards for, they don't necessarily need a permit to do. If you are a resident, you put up a fence and the fence is 10 feet tall and you get a zoning violation, you didn't need a permit for the fence, but we have a standard that says our fences in residential areas are 6 feet tall. So we would still review the changes. And you could commit them to doing the site plan of some type. It would just be a very minimal review that we would do.
Well, that's the condition of adding it to the site plan, but I'm not saying,
Yeah, we have site plans. We could.
I'm just not saying submitted and approved, because there's not an approval part.
We have the authority from Plan Commission to approve secondary plats and site plans. So yes, we could approve the site plan if they were required to do a site plan.
Conditions can be stay with submitted. I'm not gonna go that far.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was new site plan be submitted that matches the petitioner's testimony and changes. So just that way it's out there for everyone.
So the motion by Mr. King with the three conditions, second by Mr. Mole to approve. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Take a motion to direct Corporations Council to adopt the findings of fact.
Chairman, having considered statutory criteria, I move that we direct the Corporations Council Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in variance petition number BZA 2024-043. Said findings specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted to the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision and final action regarding the petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Mole, second by Mrs. Peters. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Again, we will need to work with staff and the fire department, get all the conditions met, and then once that is done, we're good to proceed.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right, BCA 2024-044, 2340 Indus Place. Petitioner is Emily Martin on behalf of Anderson Hauser, requesting relief from two sections of the Unified Development Ordinance. Number one, to waive the requirement that any expansion over 20% shall require the entire building to come into compliance. And number two, to have a loading area in the front yard, in a front yard. Is everything in order?
All notices are in order and in our files.
Started down there, yeah. All those were pretty good. All those that are going to present for or against or want to speak to this, please stand and be sworn in by our secretary at this time.
Do you swear this perjury testimony is true to the best of your knowledge?
Sir.
Oh, thank you.
Name and address for the record, and also if you would fill out the sheet when you have a chance with that information, and then tell us why you're here.
Yep, Emily Martin on behalf of Anderson Hauser Level of Pressure. My address is 6820 West 150 North Barbersville 46106.
All right. What are we trying to do?
So I'm going to provide just a brief overview of the project, and then Nick Davis will go into the details of the variance request.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of history. Anderson Hauser had sort of humble beginnings in Massachusetts, but selected Greenwood as the headquarters in the mid-70s because of its central location. And since then, the Greenwood campus has really grown and we now are around 500 employees. We believe that we are a valuable member of the community and we partner with a lot of organizations in terms of STEM involvement and philanthropic activities. The Level and Pressure facility is one of 3 manufacturing facilities that's at the Anderson Hauser Greenwood campus, and we believe that we are a center of manufacturing excellence. Our current building is 120,000 square feet, and it's light industrial and offices that support that industrial area. It was built in 2012 based on the standards that were in place at that time. We currently have about 150 employees, and when the building was constructed in 2012, it was LEED certified. The current project would be the addition of 40,000 square feet of additional manufacturing space added on to the south of the existing building. And additionally, we plan to renovate 5,000 square feet inside the building, which would provide additional office space. All of this would allow us to relocate our apprentice program, which is part of our STEM workforce development. It's currently on campus, but this would allow us to relocate to a larger, more technologically advanced area. The property that's impacted by this project is 2 parcels, both of which are currently owned by Anderson Hauser. The primary parcel is sort of in the center of the left picture, directly south of the building, and that goes all the way down to Pushville Road, which is at the bottom of the screen. And then the picture on the right side just is another aerial view. The expanded area, we do plan to continue with LEED certification and implement PV solar on the rooftop. The HVAC would utilize geothermal heat in terms of vertical wells to make sure that the heating and cooling is efficient. And additionally, we have solar tubes in the roof, which allows us to have streams of daylight into the production areas that otherwise would just be illuminated with standard lighting. This is a early rendition or rendering of the expansion. So the facade that's shown on the south side with the trucks next to it is not exactly current, but this does kind of give a general overview of the solar that will be on the addition, and then the additional parking that will be to the east. So the details that Nick will go into, the 2 variances that we are requesting. The first is related to the loading dock, which we would like to place at the south side of the building. This is the rear of the building, but faces Pushville Road. And this placement of the docks on the south side would allow us to optimize the production layout inside of the building and would allow us to maintain a very clear front entrance to the building, which is actually on the north side, and that is in the center of the ENH campus. The second variance request is related to bringing the rest of the building into compliance. So as I mentioned, it was built in 2012, and we believe that the current front, which is shown in the picture there, does meet some of the standards, including some of the glazing requirements. And the financial investment that would be required, we would prefer to invest into growing our business and adding technology and innovation, but we are open to considering if there's additional landscaping or painting of precast concrete, if that is more favorable to the board. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Nick.
Hey, my name is Nick Davis. I'm with Browning Day Architects, 626 North Illinois Street, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204. Would you like me to So would you like me to answer?
Yeah, if you're ready to go through those, that would be great. Let's start with variance number 1, which is to waive the requirement that any expansion over 20% shall require the entire building to come into compliance. Number 1, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because
The existing northern, eastern, and western facades of the building have been in place since 2010. We wrote 2010, but it's 2012, 2010 design. And fit with the modern white European lines of the remainder of the Henderson Hauser campus. They also contain large expanses of glass and a variety of metal and masonry materials. The existing facades also face the interior of campus rather than the public roads. We propose adhering to the current zoning regulations for the new addition of the building portion that will face the public road.
Okay. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
the existing design of the current facility aligns with the modern white European aesthetic of the remainder of the campus, in particular, the Henderson Hauser flow and temperature buildings that are immediately adjacent to it. The facilities closest to it are part of the overall Henderson Hauser campus, and it's immediately adjacent to 2 sister manufacturing facilities. The preservation of the existing northern, eastern, and western facades that face the interior of campus will not adversely affect the value or use of the adjacent Henderson Hauser properties. We are proposing adhering to the current zoning regulations for the new addition of the building, which is a portion that will face the public road and will impact the overall aesthetic impression of the campus from the public right of way and for non-interest adjacent property owners.
Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
the existing facility is an operating manufacturing facility that employs 155 employees as in active production 5 days a week. We are aiming to expand our existing facilities in order to increase production capacity and increase employment opportunities. We have structured the design and construction in such a manner as to minimize disruptions to the existing facility to preserve production capacity and continuous employment. We are required to bring the entire building up to current zoning standards and result in additional disruptions to production and operations. The proposed design for the addition allows us to upgrade the southern facade building in a manner that is compliant with the current zoning ordinance to create a pleasant and aesthetically pleasing facade for the public facing side of the building in a manner that is complementary and blends with the pre-existing northern and eastern western facades of the building, which fit the overall aesthetic of the campus. By designing and constructing the building in this manner, we are able to meet Greenwood's desire for upgraded public facing facades while maintaining our ability to preserve the production operations during the construction process with minimal disruptions.
And number 4, the structure is not regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-10-3 for hazard air navigation. For variance number 2, to allow a loading area in a front yard, number 1, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because
the design of the southern facade and placement of the docks have been selected with safety and pedestrian traffic in mind. The facility currently has truck traffic for existing deliveries, and construction of the new docks is not anticipated to increase truck traffic volume, but rather redirect it to an area that helps isolate the truck traffic from employee and visitor vehicular and pedestrian traffic. Proposing to comply with the zoning regulations regarding facade articulation and mixed materials in order to create an aesthetically pleasing southern facade that blends with its surrounding and incorporates the docks.
Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
existing design of the facility aligns with the modern white European aesthetic of the remainder of the campus, in particular, the Henderson Hauser flow and temperature buildings that are immediately adjacent. The facilities closest to it are part of the overall Henderson Hauser campus and immediately adjacent to the 2 sister manufacturing facilities. Those 2 properties also have loading docks and are light industrial in nature, and the inclusion of loading docks in the southern facade of this facility would not adversely affect the value or use of the adjacent Henderson Hauser properties. In addition, while the southern facade of the building does face Bushville Road, is not the main entrance to the facility. The primary entrance of the facility is on the north and the interior of the interest campus. We're proposing adhering to the material articulation of current zoning regulations for the southern facade, while incorporating the docks into the overall design concept in a manner that will create an upgraded southern facade for the non-interest neighboring property owners. We are also proposing earth berms and a layered approach for landscape screening that will create more passing predictably with pedestrian traffic along Bushville Road. These landscaping improvements include trees and berms both immediately south of the proposed addition and along Bushville Road. Adherence to Greenwood landscape ordinance will ensure a beautiful green landscape buffer between the street and the facility, which is set back a significant away from the street, 624 feet.
And number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
The design of the southern facade and placement of docks and lifts selected with safety and pedestrian traffic in mind. The facility currently has truck traffic for existing deliveries and construction, but the new docks is not anticipated to increase that truck traffic volume, but rather redirect it to the area that helps isolate the truck traffic from employee, visitor, vehicular, pedestrian traffic. Side loading truck docks on the east facade would result in a safety risk for intermixed truck and employee visitor vehicular pedestrian traffic from the new parking lot that is directly east of the facility. The overall design and layout of the building is also not conducive to side loading truck docks from an industrial engineering perspective, as it does not allow the manufacturing process to be laid out in the most efficient and effective manner. If Endress is able to better utilize the space to more effective design and industrial engineering, it will be able to further expand production and employment. The new design with its wider layout and southern facing docks allows for the much more efficient and productive use of the manufacturing assembly areas and will position Endress for future growth.
And again, the structure is not regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-10-3 for hazard navigation. All right. Anything else you would like to add?
Yes, as to the variance number 1, to waive the requirements that any expansion of 20% shall require the entire building to come into compliance. Kevin and Gabe, apologize that I didn't outline this in more detail with our application, but there are several areas that are already in compliance, and then there are a few areas that are in non-compliance, and I'll outline those very briefly. The compliant items are masonry and insulated metal panel facade that is on the proposed south. The glazing and vision windows are over 10% on all sides of the building, and the articulation of the building happens on multiple sides of the existing building as well. In areas where it's non-compliant, at least as far as we've evaluated, the current parking spaces are 9 feet by 18 feet, and the ordinance requires 10 feet by 18 feet. There are trees in the parking lot islands, and some are less than the 4-inch diameter that the UDO requires. There's some precast concrete on the north and northwest facade that is flat and plain, where the UDO would require it not to be a flat, plain surface. One item where we do not comply, and we hope to not have to comply, is adding a pronounced recessed or protruding entry on the front. But front in quotes meaning the south facade where we have the loading docks.
Okay. Anything else? If not, staff, I'll take comments.
Thank you. And I appreciate the breakdown on the existing. That kind of helps a little bit understand what the variance would entail. As far as, I'm going to take these one first, the loading dock in the front yard, staff is recommending approval of this variance with a couple of conditions. One, that it be fully screened by urban berms and landscaping in accordance with UDO section 10-03-06I. And the other condition that the final plans substantially conform to the site plan depicted in Exhibit C and building elevations in Exhibit D. And just saw our staff report, we're not in favor of the variance to waive the 20%, the expansion over 20% require the entire building to come into compliance. I think are good.
I think there's a miscommunication about the site person.
Yeah, my concern, staff's concern was with the building itself. As to how far off the existing part was on compliance, which I know you did go into some of that with the entrance and glazing.
Right, and I think it's a matter of what is the front of the building. For example, if one looks at the front, the practical front, which is the north facade, it would be compliant minus the forced masonry. It has precast, it has metal panel, it has lots of glass in front, but it does not have forced masonry on the front, which is the right picture.
Yeah, I think part of staff's confusion was not getting clarity on what parts of the 20% they were not meeting. It appears to be meeting many of the standard side elevation shall be fully clad in the predominant material of the front elevation. It is meeting that, meets the rear elevation as well. And if you call the practical front, it is meeting the transparency requirement. I think where they likely fall short is the 15% of the front elevation shall be clad in mortar masonry, not including split face block, but without receiving details in advance regarding what the existing materials are, which ones they're deficient in. It was difficult for staff to make a blanket recommendation.
And I will add that you'd mentioned the entrance not being required to be located on the south facade. I think with the berming and landscaping that has been mentioned, I want to say that you had proposed that to begin with. So I didn't want to take credit for something I did come off with. I don't think that having that entrance is necessary on the south side, as it will be well screened.
Anything else you'd like to add in response before we close the public hearing? Close the public hearing. Small.
Just to clarify, it's just basically gonna look like the rest of the buildings on the campus. Yes. It just looked like on the monitors, it looked a little off the color, so. So I was just making sure I saw that correct.
Mr. King?
No, I mean, I think we understand variance number one.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I think the testimony is very helpful. I feel like we're in the spirit of what we're trying to do, and it seems a little punitive almost to.
Especially when it's already there. It's a campus that all looks the same.
It's fairly new. So, I have no other questions. I will take a motion to admit all the evidence of the record.
Chairman, I move that we omit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and comprehensive plan, testimony of petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. I take a motion on request number one to waive the requirement that any expansion over 20% shall require the entire building into compliance.
I move that we approve this request with no conditions.
And I will note on your ballot, there is no signature line, so just sign below, below the conditions. Okay, I have a motion to approve with no condition. Second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Request number two to have a loading area in a front yard.
This one I move that we approve the request with two conditions in the staff report, which are one, the south side of the building shall be fully screened by earth and burns and landscaping in accordance with UDO section 10-03-06I. Landscaping and buffering. Two, the final plans shall substantially conform to the site plan depicted in Exhibit C and building elevations depicted in Exhibit D.
Motion by Mr. King to approve with the two conditions of the staff report, second by Mr. Peters. All those in favor raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. I'll take a motion to direct Corporation Council to draft written findings of fact.
Chairman, having considered statutory criteria, I move that we direct the Corporation's Council Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the various requests presented in various petition number BZA 2024-044. Said findings specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision and final action regarding this petition in the next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Moll, second by Mr. King. All those in favor raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. You also are to proceed working with staff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any announcements? Seeing none, take a motion to adjourn. You can stop the recording. Microphone's off.